Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today during possibly your lunch break. We are very excited to be offering a rollover best practices related event. So we have teamed up with Alex Lowe's. She is just an expert of all things rollover and just truly a community champ. So we're very excited to be collaborating with you, Alex. I'm just going to give, I guess we'll introduce ourselves. So who do you have with you today? I am Julie Lau. I'm a community specialist on the community team. I'll invite Awesome.
Hi everyone, Awesome here. I'm also a fellow community specialist and super excited to partner with Alex on this.
And my name is Alex. I'm a customer success specialist on our customer success team, working with onboarding and new customers.
Excellent. Thanks, Alex. So just to give you a little bit of a high level overview of what we'll be covering during this short 30 minutes, Alex is going to share a short story about her learning moment and sort of what inspired this rollover best practices and strategies learning center resource. We're going to talk about what is rollover and how it does impact you, and also some tools to support your process in your LMS. We are going to talk about some best practices and then also provide you with some takeaway resources so that you can really implement that within your own Brightspace instance. So I'm just going to invite Alex to take over here. Thanks so much, Alex. We are truly excited to be hosting this event with you.
Awesome. Thank you for the intro, Julie, and awesome. So to get started, I know we have a large group of us in this webinar. So what we're going to do is we have a little bit of a mentee poll. This is kind of our intro one for the moment. Oops, go back. So if you are able to go to mentee.com and use the code 5403421 to join, we will then get to answer kind of this question just to see who's in the room today. So you'll get to answer what segment you're from. Are you an admin? Are you an instructor? So I'd love to hear from all of you to see, just to get a sense of where we're all coming from today. So give everyone a little minute. Good. And Awesome or Julie, if you could just maybe add the link in the chat for the mentee, that would make it. There we go.
Yes,
Perfect.
I did just pop the link in the chat, so hopefully folks can connect there.
It is a multi-select, so if you work in multiple areas or you have multiple kind of roles, definitely select them. Awesome, perfect, I can see it's working. There will be some other mentee questions throughout, so this is just kind of a nice intro to make sure it's all working for everybody. Wonderful. It's great to see we have a good kind of variety of members, community members joining us today from all of our segments and different roles. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. All right, just for the sake of time, I'm going to keep moving on, but if you haven't had a chance yet, do join and then you can participate in our next slide. So this idea came from Fusion. The theme for Fusion was my learning moment, but I wanted to share it again today. So I used to be a high school science teacher. And when I first was hired to start teaching, I was hired about a week before school started, which meant that I had a week to prepare content and my online learning environment for my students. So I had some amazing coworkers that were open to sharing their resources with me. But what came the next day was a large stack of binders with a lot of paper resources. And I was so appreciative of all the support that my colleagues were giving me, all their resources and learning materials to help me get started at the beginning of the year. But it was not easy to make edits, to make changes, to even review what I had in this binder. So I spent a lot of time in my first year rebuilding digital resources that I shared within my learning management system for my students. So all of this hard work paid off in my second year of teaching because I now had this full repository of resources for my learners, and I had a lot more time now to spend personalizing these resources, spending one-on-one time with my students to make sure that they were getting the support they needed. So that concept that I was able to kind of take what I had created, repurpose it for next year, but not have to start from scratch every year. It's kind of where this concept of rollover and it kind of came to be. So I'm hoping to share some of those learnings with you and how you can use Brightspace at your organization to have a similar experience. So another mentee, I would like to hear from you about what rollover means at your organization. We know that it's a little bit different, just depending on if you're a K-12 or a corporate client. Maybe you work in a government setting. So I'd love to just see to you, what exactly does rollover mean to you? And we'll see what our answers are. And if you're just joining us, this is a mentee poll. So you can go from your computer or your cell phone to mentee.com. The link is in the chat as well. And join from code 54034219. So just give everyone a moment. Hoping to learn more, Rollover is supporting our K-12 clients get their courses ready, student carryover from one year to the next, new course updates, the start of term, going back, getting content ready. These are all awesome, awesome answers. Archiving courses, yes, that's a huge one as well. Awesome, I love this. So lots of big themes between all of them. So the definition or kind of summary that I've come up with is that rollover is a term that references the creation of new courses. This is typically at the start of a new academic year, a training session, or when the bulk of your new courses begin. So if you're a K-12 institute, that's typically August or September, and you might have one rollover each year. If you're a higher education institution, you may have semesters or terms or sessions that you go through. So you may have a couple different times. And for our corporate and professional learning folks, you may not have one set timeline in a year when all of your courses begin. You may have some compliance courses that align to your fiscal year, and you may have some employee upskilling courses that are cycled through depending on the needs of your groups at different times. But all of these cases do apply to rollover, so it's important that we know some of the workflows within Brightspace to support that. So at the beginning of my presentation, I mentioned one reason why rollover was really, really important to me as a first-year teacher. If I had a more of a rollover process at my school, it would have been a lot easier for me to get started that first week of school and put all of my resources together to support my students. But some other reasons why considering rollover and putting together a more formalized process makes sense is for data cleanliness and maintaining user progress within a course. So we know data is super important for tracking course completion, confirming that if a learner has completed or passed the course, checking to see what they have or have not done. So by going through a rollover process, you can make sure that every course is just used once and captures exactly where that learner made it to and the progress and success they had. Rollover also gives us an opportunity to refresh courses. So if we are consistently using the same courses year over year, semester over semester, it does mean that we don't have an opportunity to edit, make improvements, or make changes to those courses because there are always learners working within that environment and learning there. So if we have a rollover process, it means that we can reflect back on the course feedback, the surveys, the success, and all of the data from that first course, learn from it, and make adjustments before we reoffer that course next term. And lastly, a rollover process makes sure that we're controlling a learner's access to a course through the use of start or end dates. So making sure that when they are completed, or when a learner has finished a course, that we're able to close that out so that we know exactly where their progress was met. And we have a kind of a finite point to be able to pull that data from to track completion. So our last mentee of our presentation, but I want to know what rollover workflow is something that you struggle with, or maybe your organization struggles with, or you find most challenging. There's a lot of workflows, and we'll talk through a couple of them in this presentation, but I want to see where are the common themes, where are some of those challenges, what takes the most time for you. And again, sorry if I sound like a broken record, but if you are joining us late, this is a mentee poll. So you can join at mentee.com. The link is in the chat, and then join with the code so that you can begin to share your responses with the group. Asynchronous enrollment when you don't have start and end dates. Yep, that is a big, big challenge for sure. A consistent theme for master courses. Async. Oh, we have a lot of asynchronous comments. Rolling starts, absolutely. Revamping courses, I love that. We want to refresh and make changes. And organizing information to get carried forward each year, absolutely. Faculty struggle with what they need to know. Course data, progress, awesome. All of these are really challenging for sure. They're also topics that we are going to cover a little bit today, and also I will highlight the takeaway resources that cover each and every single one of these topics. I know they are all included in our takeaway resource. So thank you for sharing. So a couple of the workflows that I want to just highlight today and some of the tools that we have within Brightspace to support those workflows. The first one would be creating courses and semesters. So I have a short video over here in the corner about using our course management tools to create courses individually. But it can be a little bit confusing because there are 4 separate tools that you can use within Brightspace to help with semester and course creation. All of these tools are typically administrative focused tools. So if you're the super admin or admin at your organization, we use our org unit editor to create semesters, and then course management, bulk tools, and Ipsys can all be used to create our courses. And depending on the types of integration, so if you have your SIS or HRIS integrated with Brightspace, you might be using Ipsys. If you don't, then using bulk tools can allow you to create all of your courses at once. But if you just want to create a single course at one time, then you would be using our course management tool. Our next workflow is managing dates. So a lot of us mentioned the challenges around our asynchronous courses or courses that have a rolling kind of enrollment date. So there are a lot of, similar to the previous workflow, there's a lot of tools that can be used to support updating and managing dates. So course management, when you actually build the course, you can set those start and end dates. There's a tool called Course Updater that allows you to update start, end dates, and availability dates in bulk, which I'm showing in this short video down here. And then same thing, if you do have that integration with your SIS or HRIS, Ipsys will allow you to kind of manage those dates as well. Enrollment of users is another big workflow related to rollover. And again, similar theme, there's a couple different tools. So we have our user management tools to enroll a single user into a single course. We have our bulk user management tool to allow you to do that same action, but in bulk. And then similar as before, if we have those integrations with our SIS, we can perform those actions while we create the courses through those integrations. And lastly, creating and copying content. This would be likely our instructor or facilitator workflow, where we are either moving content from a previous semester or a master course to our current semester course, or maybe we're importing new content as part of that refresh process. So we can use bulk tools if we are moving all of the content from a master course or from all of our master courses to a new semester. Or if we're doing it on an individual basis, then we're able to use our import, export, copy components tool, either from our admin wheel or from directly within a course from the course admin section. So I know I went through these fast, but I will highlight where we can find all of the takeaway information and more videos like this to support each of these workflows for you to review later as well. So with lots of different types of rollover kind of workflows, different types of courses, different types of enrollments, there's not one specific timeline that makes sense for every organization, but this is a suggestion of steps that we would like to share with you about kind of an order that makes most sense. And you can figure out the time that make most sense for your org. But to start, we want to communicate your rollover plan with your team. So communication is really, really clear to make sure that everyone within your organization knows exactly what is expected of them at different times. So do they need to have all of their course content in 2 weeks before the course goes live? These are key details that we need to make sure we're sharing early with our team members to give them ample time to prepare. The next workflow would likely be creating any semesters or terms if you are using those at your organization. This is our first one because then once we are creating our courses, we can link those to those semesters or terms if they're being used. So we want to create this first. Our next step would be create our courses. So whether that's through Ipsys, that's through our bulk tools management, or whether that's individually through course management. However your organization does it, we want to create those course shells. So if there have to be any merging of courses or sections created, we have, again, lots of time to do that before content starts to get created. If your instructors or facilitators are responsible for creating content, we want to make sure that they are enrolled into those courses shortly after the courses are created, so they can begin creating or copying the learning materials from previous semesters, from master courses, or importing new material as part of that refresh process. As a part of this creating and copying learning materials, I would also recommend at this point to have a date when content should be completed by, so that a review can be done either by peers or by that instructor to ensure that all of the information is there before we enroll our learners as our final step. So again, this is shared in our takeaway resource, but this is just our suggested kind of timeline workflow, but things may be different based on your unique organizational policies. The last thing we'll share as part of this presentation before we jump into our Learning Center course is some ideas and suggestions around content best practices. Some of these may be relevant, some of them may not. Maybe you're doing them already. I saw master courses mentioned, but I just wanted to share them with all of us today. So the idea around master courses is that we're going to create a perfect or close to perfect version of a course offering that instructors can copy from every time that course is reoffered for a new session or a new term. There are no learners enrolled in this master course. It's just a space that instructors or facilitators can collaborate in, make adjustments to, and that can be the spot that you refresh in between semesters without impacting a live course with learners. And then once that course has been completed and we're happy with it, we've made tweaks, you can then copy from that into your semester or term course that has your learners in there. The next suggestion is to leverage our quiz question library. And by creating a pool of questions, you're able to pull questions maybe from myself, from Julie's course, from Awesome's course, and we can create one large pool of questions that can introduce variation into learners' quizzes and tests. Every semester, say my goal is to create 10 or 12 new questions. As I add them to this question library, I'm creating more variation in the types of questions and the variety of questions that my learners can be asked. And those can be used for formative or summative assessments, but it does save me time from having to create a brand new assessment every single semester with new questions. Release conditions are another great tool to use within Brightspace to allow content to be shared with a learner as they progress through a course. So it's not all shared at once, but as they meet different requirements, then new content is released to them to really help with pacing, to not overwhelm them as they show up in a course with 20 different content modules. So it's a great tool to kind of allow that self-paced and personalization based on learner progress. And then lastly, as part of that refresh process, I highly suggest that we are reviewing different types of feedback that we have from previous semesters or sessions. So looking at content, quiz, rubric, discussion, and grade statistics from previous course offerings. And then also if you do any course feedback or course surveys, definitely take a look at those as you are going through your refresh process and updating maybe those master courses to see where students are drawn to and maybe the areas that they struggled with to make an adjustment before you re-offer that course next semester. So a lot of information covered so far in 21 minutes, but I wanted to highlight our takeaway resource for this. So we do have a course within the Learning Center related to rollover. So we will just pop up. Julie, could you just give me a thumbs up if you're able to see the community now? Perfect. Awesome. So from our Brightspace community, hopefully everyone's had a chance to come here and create their account. From the search, we're going to search for rollover. Just a moment. And the first article that shows up here are rollover and best practices strategies. So there's an article here just giving a high-level overview of what the course is, but we're going to scroll down quickly so I can actually show you the course and a couple of our key kind of highlights. So when you come to the course, on the homepage, we see all of the different modules that we have, a little announcement as well, but what we're going to do is we're going to jump straight into content to start. So this resource was created as a way to ensure that we have all of this information about rollover accessible to everyone on an ongoing basis, that every semester when you begin, that we have access to this information and we can refer back to it as much as we needed. So in the welcome module, it just gives a little context around the course and what exactly the course is about. There are a lot of different links to other community resources, other past webinars, different infographics, checklists, lots and lots of information that you can take away and reuse semester over semester. The other helpful and more detailed things that we hadn't get enough time today to go over is all of the different tools that we use within Brightspace to help manage rollover. So we referenced a lot of these today. So our org unit editor, and there's a high level kind of overview of what the tool is and lots of information about terminology, common workflows. And the nice part is about within each of these sections, there are lots of pictures, there's lots of how-to videos with transcripts, with closed captioning as well, to make sure it's really digestible for you and anyone at your organization, and then it's accessible as well. So all of the tools that we mentioned today, and a nice highlight as well, just to test yourself, ensure that you are understand the information, is that we do have our Creator Plus practices embedded into this course to help you identify whether you understand the information and maybe need to go back and review something before you start working on it within your org. So I just want to highlight this one other part here. I know a lot of people in this session identified that those asynchronous courses or rolling enrollments were a challenge for them. So we do have a section about users and enrollments. So paced enrollments is likely the most common one that we see, where everyone is enrolled at the beginning and we have a set start and end date. So there's some strategies around here for that. But we do also have our strategies defined for rolling enrollments, so where learners begin at different times. Also for recertifications and sequential or competency-based learning. So these are definitely sections to check out if those are programs or course structures that you have within your organization as well. There's also a section about managing that course content. So this is super helpful for anyone who's an instructor or facilitator who is responsible for managing content. And a section we didn't get to today about archiving and data purge. There's a kind of our high level overview of what exactly is our data purge tool and some common suggestions around archiving and how your organization can create their own policy around when to archive or hold on to data. And lastly, if you do check out the course, I would love to get some of your feedback on it. So there is a short quiz as a small test yourself. And if you do get 80% on the quiz, then you will be awarded with a Rollover Champ award using our awards tool. So it does mean that you are able to then share that with publicly or to your LinkedIn profile or share it with your colleagues to let them know that you have completed the course. And there is also a survey to allow you to provide some course feedback. I am logged in as the course admin at the moment, which is why we see the edit view. Sorry, I should have logged in as a learner view. But for you, it should all appear without having to open up other tabs. So let's go back to our presentation. Oh, sorry, one other thing. The other takeaway as part of this, and these are downloadable within the community article, but also within the course as well, is there are two checklists, for one for administrators and one for our instructors or course facilitators around what activities we need to complete during our rollover time. So my first recommendation on that workflow timeline was to create that communication plan to communicate with your team. So I would highly suggest downloading both of these resources, making any edits to them based on your policies and procedures at your organization, and then sharing out these checklists with everyone in your organization to make sure everyone is up to date on their roles and responsibilities. And if there's due dates, you can certainly add those due dates as well to the checklist. But this is a super helpful communication tool to make sure everyone is on at the same page. So that kind of summarizes and wraps up everything that I wanted to share today about rollover and about the Learning Center course as a takeaway as well. We do have two more community webinars coming up. So we have Lynn's take on gamification at the end of August, and an Ipsos Q&A or Ask Me Anything session. So if you are using any integrations with your SIS or HRIS integration, then I would definitely recommend checking out that session. So that is August 25th. And those both can be, you can register for them from the community event page.
This is so wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex. This information is just golden. This is just, yeah, really, really helpful. There are a few, I saw some fellow D2Lers jumping in to sort of answer some client questions in the chat. So that's really appreciated. Thank you. There are still a few outstanding ones. I know Alex said that she's available to stay on for a few minutes after. So potentially after we stop the recording, we can stay on to address those. As with all of our community events, we do like to get your feedback to make sure that we're bringing you the types of events, the duration, the content that is meaningful and valuable to you. So we have just a quick survey. It shouldn't take you more than a minute or two. And we would be very, very grateful to you for just letting us know what you thought of this event.
Thank you. I'll try to respond to a couple in the chat now, but yes, definitely able to stay on now. If there are questions and you want to come off mute to ask any of them, or type in the chat, whatever you prefer. Maria, yes, anyone can access the Learning Center. If you have a community account, and Julie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this course is actually publicly accessible. So even if we have, if you haven't signed up yet, I think you can access the course yet.
Yes, so anyone who's signed on with SSO credentials in the Learning Center, this resource is available to all Brightspace clients.
Perfect.
Yep. If you're having any access issues, please feel free to email the community team at questions@community.d2l.com. I can pop that in the chat again as well. We can just take a closer look at your account to make sure that we get you access.
Thank you, Sarah, for sharing the single sign-on link. That's perfect.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you, Sarah.
Awesome.
Perfect. We are just at time. Alex, thank you so very much for coming to share just so much knowledge about the rollover process. And please check out the resource that Alex created. It's chocked full of just some incredible video workflows as well as a downloadable checklist. There's lots and lots of really valuable content in there. So please check that out. Thanks to all of you for joining us. We love to connect with you and to be able to share some information that we hope is helpful for you navigating your Brightspace. So